So right away, you're getting the new Wastelander content right out of the doors. And even before in the vault, we went through and did a pass to make sure that a year has passed, you feel it, it makes sense. For some reason, you make it up. You decided to sleep in for, I got 12 months or so. So
There's an example of our new
Oh,
quest.
yeah.
I mean, would you leave? I'd stay for a year.
it's kind of
It's
sensible.
really cozy in there. But yeah, there's been some changes to how the quest system works too, and how it looks on the map now.
Oh yeah, the paper map is amazing. It really presents a world of opportunity. You can select and highlight any quest on the map and activate it or deactivate it, so you don't have to dig into your Pip-Boy at all. You can just go to the paper map and see what's out there.
And for those that have visited Vault 76 before Vault 76, this is a new addition to it with Wastelanders.
You get people. Look, they're talking. It's human beings. It's amazing. And the more, the other thing is that we get to go back to the sort of the strengths of Bethesda. You know, the conversations. We're trying to connect with you with human beings, with emotions. You know, try to give you a real impetus for why you're doing the things you're doing. And conversations like this, you would not believe how long we went back and forth on, because like the initial conversations to try to hook you, to try to make it so that it's like, okay, I get what's going on, and try to orient you. It's, you know.
What?
And I'm sure there's all the quest-specific NPCs that you'll run into and the human characters that you'll run into, but they're kind of littered all over the wasteland at this point, right? You can come across people like Lacey here or others throughout throughout your journey.
There's people randomly all over the place. There's also like some people that we are placed in specific places. Along the main quest, which used to be the main quest, there's the people that can help orient you, try to give you some information as to what's going on there. It took a lot of back and forth for us with the whole team, trying to make sure that we got the density right.
Special check.
Yeah, we would keep playing the game day after day and be like, is this the right pacing for how far apart people are and how often you run into them?
Sears Camp?
That's correct. In fact, you might be able to see it off to the right over there. Conveniently, right where the Overseer used to have her care package for you, they've set up a bar. And so you get to go in and meet some of the cast of characters over there. And it definitely adds a whole new element if you remember the past, where you would just walk through kind of the empty, let's say it dead wasteland, and now there's life. People are building, and you get to help them out.
It's very cozy. Let's pause here for a second. So, instances.
Instances were a huge step for us, because one of the things that allows us to do is make it so we're telling a tailored story to the person that's entering it. Before, when you would go into these places, who knows what state it would be in? People could have cleared out the entire dungeon. There could be literally nothing left for you to do, and so that's kind of a hit or miss experience. And also, there's no way that we could really react to you, like your decisions, your choices. Instances make it to where we can cumulatively, step by step, keep track of what you've chosen, and then it's reflected as you're going on. And also, you will not get an empty dungeon. You will get an experience which is going to be full of life, tailored to you going in there.
Yeah, this is super exciting technology for us. I mean, not only for Wastelanders, but for everything we're going to be doing in the future. So it literally is a game changer for us, and you should expect to see more of that kind of content moving forward.
As you can see, you can go in with your team or by yourself. And remember, this also alleviates the lineup at the princess and all the other things. So like Farrah was alluding to, like we can make substantive changes to the storyline based on your unique interactions with the NPCs. It's exciting.
Very personalized experience. Let's enter the Wayward.
Well, not exactly the introduction to the Wayward I would have hoped for. Well, sorry about that, darling. First round's on me. Name's Duchess. There's something I could do for you.
As you can see with our dialogue
Your
here, we're
guess is
not
as
just
good as
limiting
mine,
the player to
sweetheart.
4
He busted in
specific
here saying I
options.
needed to
There's
turn over the
a number of
location to
different
some fella named
ways you can
Flynn,
interact with
who I
NPCs
guess
based
I
on your
must have stripped at
specials, the
some point
previous
or another.
events you had
Since
taken
then,
part in,
a steady
as well as
stream
your
of
what kind of
miscreants has been
character you
making
want to
my
roleplay.
life
The
irritating.
funny thing is, as writers, a lot of us, if anything, we had to limit the number of choices. There were a lot of passes to where it's just like, oh my God, like it's more than a screen full. So we're trying to get
Now that you
you to the
mention
right
it,
level of role
I
playing and
could
the right
use an
level,
extra pair of
level of
hands.
reactivity to
See,
things you may have done.
that
Yeah, the
boy
design
we
team
put
went
down,
way over the
he's
budget
not the biggest
with how many
screw
lines
of
of
all
dialogue are in this. It's shocking.
but I want
actually.
him to be the
They were very
last.
excited about this.
Normally, I'd send my people
And on
out
the
to
art
clean
side, we had the
house,
important discussion
but my
on which
muscles
beer
run
brand
off,
should be on
so I
Duchess's
don't
shirt
have the
and
body
Old
to spare
Possum.
right now.
Did you win
I'm
that
willing
one?
to pay
I
you
love that
if
one.
You put an end to this for me.
And there's a lot of personality in Duchess and a lot of characters, but how much involvement goes into creating an
That's
individual
what I was
personality for an
hoping.
NPC, whether it's
So,
Duchess or
the
Mort, who I think
details.
we're about to see, or
Now,
Lacey that we met at the
Each of
beginning?
these
The
boys
funny
came in
thing is
asking
that some
after
characters
Crank.
almost write
thinking we
themselves.
can make that
I
work
mean,
for
it's
us. How
you
would
like
you
come up
grab
with an
the attention of a
idea,
bunch of
they as lead
single-minded
designer,
thugs?
they pitch it by me, and sometimes it's like gold. We did it. Yes, just make that happen. And other times it takes some back and forth and some real hard work. But I think at the end, what we're trying to do, especially since before you didn't have anybody to talk to, we want to put our best foot forward. So you're getting a lot of vibrant characters. That they should all feel oriented in the world. Yes, there'll be humor and stuff like that, but it's we're trying to make it so that we're telling a story of like, hey, it was a wasteland, and now the Wastelanders are back. People coming here to explore it, and they react realistically to what's happened in the past, and sort of built up based off of that.
Yeah, as a player, it's just a
So we have negative speech challenges too, to where it's actually like if you're really not so great, you can choose it. It's one of the best speech checks in the game, actually, because you basically say like,
Not sure
"Yeah,
I've got
we should
enough
send
on
out
hand,
invitations," and then
unfortunately.
she's like,
No.
"Yeah, you can do
We're
that,
gonna
honey."
draw
You
them
know,
in by making them
it's
think you're Crane.
but we just went
Just give me
crazy
1
with them
second.
because it was, we wanted to add specials. I was planning at one point of doing a pass over all the dialogue to make sure all the specials were represented. And like I said before, I had to actually like yank them out. It's like, okay, we have enough
I
endurance checks.
just
We
want
don't
you
need
to know,
another.
architecture ain't
Here's more.
exactly
I remember
my
one where
forte.
there was like every special was
Huh.
represented.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
bad.
A little much. We do show
So what
locked
I've
doors, as
chicken
you saw
scratched
there too.
together
So
here
we
for you
there was a
is
big
the
debate on the
schematic for
design team whether or
one
not to show
custom
those or
made
not.
Crane
I
treasure
think I won it.
hunting
I don't know,
sign.
but I
If I
liked
didn't
knowing
butcher
what
the
I
plans
could
too
do if I
bad,
played a
it's
different
got
character.
little
So it
system
makes it
built
exciting for
in
me.
It
to
also-
know that there's other
sending out an
possibilities.
You could also
advertisement
back out and take
and
some
getting this
chems
gang's
sometimes
attention.
if you're so
Yeah.
inclined, and you can pass
You just
checks
need
you
to
may not
build
have been
it.
able to pass
Use
before.
the tape it spits out to tell the world
Who doesn't
you're
love cows?
open for business. And
Do
then
you have a
convince
favorite?
any
Do you guys
punks
have a
that
favorite
show up
NPC
to
that you've
tell
added
you
so
where their
far?
boss is hiding. They didn't teach you
No
how to
spoilers, no
build from
spoilers.
Yeah, I'm gonna
schematics
go-
up in
well,
that vault of yours,
Can we say we'll say
didn't I?
names? Gail. Gail, I think, is personally my favorite.
That's the spirit.
I think one
Hey, if
called
you need
Fuzzy
a
Brenda
refresher,
mine right
in
there.
Camden Park.
Mort.
can help you out.
Mort's really good.
What are you on
I also
about,
I will not
Mordecai?
actually.
Hey,
Even
nah,
her
I'm not
name
bragging
is a
or
spoiler,
anything,
but there's a
but I've got
doctor I
some
really
tapes that
adore
cover that very
that is
subject.
fantastic and
Oh,
quirky
Mort, not
and
the tapes. Well,
yeah. I
find
can't
yourself
say
wanting a
anything more,
refresher?
but there's a host of
Talk to
characters.
You'll
Mort.
find out all
Plus,
about
you're
them on
gonna
April
need
7th.
materials, but we should have enough lying
And
around
Mort
to cover you there.
Is voiced by
Get you
somebody
together a
that
little
people may be
cafe.
familiar with, right?
Throw some rations
Yes,
in there too, so you
I
don't
can't
starve
remember
on me.
his actual name, but
And
it's
so you
Jay
know,
from Jay and
Jason
you
Silent
might have
Bob.
to
Hughes,
break
right?
some of
Yeah.
the scrap down for parts.
He nailed it.
But I
He's
can
awesome.
spot you some workbench
I feel like he did a
materials,
great
too,
job
since you're
of
doing me such a
sounding
favor.
exactly like the ghouls do, but
Who
giving that
knows?
inflection and
Maybe
that
you'll
different
learn
tone,
something
so
while
it's
you
a
do it.
completely different experience from like a Hancock. Maybe.
What's
Ready to
wonderful
get
about
this
all this
show on
too
the
is because
road?
before there were no choices, right? So you were
is
forced
a lot to
as
ask.
people
Fine.
writing quests,
I
the
could
quest designers would have to
do
make it so that
75,
you had
but
all
that's
the
as high
information,
as I'll
absolutely
go.
all the information, and
That
sometimes
means
it
you're
meant
up to
that
the
it was pretty
task.
long before you actually got through somebody talking about what the quest
Hot
was.
dog.
Whereas here, it's like,
have these
no, like,
dopes on our
if you
back
want to
long
drill down
last.
and get more, you
Just
can
make
ask
sure
more
once you
about, like,
find out
more
where
about the
they're
camp and
hiding,
how to build a camp
their
and stuff.
leader
But it's
gets
not
the
forced
message.
in front of you. It's
The
something that you
wayward
choose
gets
to do.
left alone.
We actually went back to previous
and on
dialogues,
the
too.
topic of
So, like,
leaders,
characters like
you know, one of
Modus,
my people found this
Rose,
tape in the camp across
the
the
mayor
way,
of Grafton, who's
recorded
awesome.
by
We can
one
go back and you can now
overseer
actually talk to them. Right? Like, some of my favorite
It's
lines that we rewrote were like
out
talking to the mayor of
there.
Grafton, like saying, you know
But
that
it seems it
everyone's
might have
dead.
been
He's
left
like,
for someone
yes.
from
It makes governing these people way easier.
And that's something
Right.
we plan to do
Sounds like she
more
set
of
the
moving
camp
forward
up
is
so
going
her people
back and
could get some
revisiting some of these old
practice in
characters, giving them a few more
self
dialogue
reliance.
options. So
I feel like it's
Probably
almost
worth
it's
looking
comfortable.
into
Having
if you
played in the
think you
PTS
need a
myself,
refresher.
in speaking with some of these existing characters, I didn't even process at first that there was now a dialogue option. It just feels like it's it's just natural part of the progression now.
My hope is that people coming in fresh, they will have no idea. You will tell your friends, like, no, the mayor did not do that. That was not there. When we were talking about 76 launch, imagine none of that. And that it's just like you have these, like, because there are a lot of characters that people really did love, and now you get to interact with them. For example, with Rose. Rose kind of is an interesting character. Some people absolutely adore her. Some people hate her. And just being able to role play that, saying like, listen, Rose, I don't like you, but I will work with you. It's satisfying. Or say, hey, sign me up for Rose's army. That's an option too, if you want us to role play it that way.
Has anyone here been chosen to be in the PTS?
Don't have one.
All right.
Woo!
All right.
Thank you.
I wanted to just thank you. That has been a huge win for us. We've gotten a ton of great feedback. We've made substantive changes to the balance of the end game as a result of that in our gold bullion system.
The foundation where the settlers have built up at Spruce Knob, which was the highest point in West Virginia. And before it was just a workshop, and people would go there and build stuff. But I thought it was such a great space that I wanted to really build it up. And all the people here have this background in construction. So it's like really clean and new, with armor plating on log cabins, which is a great aesthetic, I think. So you can get a good look of it here.
I imagine that the cities kind of act as like a hub location where you can purchase things and trade with other players, and all the players interact with like the NPCs, and it's just a good time.
As you get to know these characters too, like I could see either like a creator or foundation. It just could be the new place that you just go to do stuff, because you start to hopefully empathize, care about these guys. We want to try to make each one of them distinct. Like you definitely get a vibe here from a foundation that these guys are perhaps more civilized, but they're actually also squatters, right? Like these people came arguably taking your land as 76ers to make it their own. And so they kind of have a vibe of like, hey, we're here, we're taking this land, we're good people, but it's our land now, which makes it a kind of interesting dichotomy versus the Crater, who, they're raiders, and so that's, typically you'd think they're wearing the black hats. But actually, for these guys, this is their land. They arguably were here before even the people of 76 came out of the vault. So if anyone has a claim to this area, it's them. So it makes it so that it's not a black and white choice, that you could really make a more nuanced decisions. And, as you get to know them, you might say that, like, most people play good guys. So, we expect a lot of people to go with the settlers. But the raiders, it's like they have a point, and if you really listen to them, you're like, yeah, why are those settlers over here? They don't own this land.
Yeah, everyone just thinks they're scary because they're hanging up corpses, but that's just so they don't
They
have to
gentle
shoot you.
hearts.
Yeah.
I don't know, Farrah. It sounds like you would be a raider then.
Actually, what we found in this was just interesting for the PTS is that the majority of people have played the settler side, and I'm a big role player too, so I like playing the white hat, as Farrah puts it. But man, the Raiders quest line's outstanding in this, so you could definitely do both. We can talk a little bit about how you can dive into both as well. You don't have to just choose one or the other for most of the game to the end. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Sure. Pardon. No, you can basically, like, at the very beginning, you do make a choice of, like, who you initially are talking about. The main quest, can't get into spoilers. But it's not, you're not precluded from basically, taking a little from column A and a little column from B. And you can sort of go down both quest lines, and to a point to where you have to make a decision. There's a point to where it's like, dude, if I do this, there is no way they're going to work with me on this. So, but you can go far enough that you can really get a sense of who these are. Whoever you wind up siding with, it's not like you can't be friends with the other side. We have a reputation system, and so the side you do choose to help, those guys you're going to get a big, huge bump on your relationship with them. But it doesn't mean you can't go down the other path as well.
I love this location. Do you want to talk about that?
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is underneath Foundation, so they have dug out this whole sewer area here. You can see some of the lighting changes that we did here, because we did a whole pass on the entire game to change how the lighting works. So it's less flat, there's more contrast, reflections show up better, and stuff like that.
Yeah, as a player, I just love seeing this world evolve over time.
Mm-hmm.
Having seen what it's like from launch to this point, and then moving forward, how the world is changing, and seeing these new locations pop up. It's super exciting.
I don't know, like, if anybody else gets as much of a kick out of it as me, but like the Pip-Boy year, we moved it up a year, which is just it's just a little thing, but just being able to see that, like, no, this is year one. It's different. Year two, probably.
Yeah, and it's just the world is changing with your participation, right? And it's gonna keep going, right? So.
What's the hardest thing that you've had to change in making Wastelanders?
That's a good one. Our standard events, it's player initiated, riding shotgun. This takes place in the existing location of the Big Bend Tunnel. You're going to help the Blue Ridge Caravan escort some pack Brahmin through the tunnel. And surprise, surprise, things are going to not necessarily go the way you would want them to. You're going to end up having to fight off a bunch of raiders. And I'm distracted because I'm looking at our new weapon here, the bow, which is
we
super
have
cool.
all sorts of new weapons that we've added. And
For all
it's
you
not just
sneaky
arrows.
archers.
Yeah, you can mod the bow so it explodes or does poison, lots of other
I
things.
think I also saw some. Is this unique power armor to Wastelanders?
Yeah, we have the Raider and Settler packs, so those both have their own unique power armors. We spent a lot of time on those and they look great. And you can also see one of them has the Plasma Caster, which is back from the Fallout 1, so that was always my favorite weapon. And also the Gauss minigun, which is like the most expensive weapon to fire in the game.
There are also perks related to the bow as well.
So one thing, going back to the events before I got distracted, one thing we're trying to do more of with our events is give players more jobs in these events. And so, for example, in this one, obviously your primary role is to protect the Brahmin, but there's optional objectives where you can go find these hidden supply caches. And they're going to be different every time you play through. And if you find those supply caches, you're going to get a much better reward at the end. And the same goes for the other event that we're adding. Again, there's a primary objective, but then there's all these other side objectives that you can do. So you're really going to need to coordinate with other players and work together to get the optimal results in the end.
Another thing is just, I mean, obviously we're adding dialogue throughout the entire game, but it's a real game changer for events because now you're dealing with people. You're getting to learn some stories about who's here. Actually, it's variable. Like, so there's different variations of it where you get to see different members of the caravan company. Some possibly a little bit more friendly than others.
And I keep seeing Blood Eagle come up as an enemy. Who or what is a Blood Eagle?
A Blood Eagle is a raider's raider. Like, you can join the raiders. They're initially hostile to you, so they'll attack. But there's a group that no matter what you do, they're going to be your enemies, and those are the Blood Eagles.
It's also a Norse method of torture.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Look that up on YouTube. Or
Yeah.
History lessons.
I'm not exactly sure what's in the caravan, but they really, really want it.
Yeah.
Like, really want it.
Those poor Brahmins.
It was important for us to introduce some factions that you couldn't directly influence to keep as enemies. As people who played Fallout 4 know, some of the best enemy combatants in the game are raiders, and so they're back now as Blood Eagles and others. So we'll continue to have interesting and unique combat encounters with them as they try to outflank you and throw